Hi empaths, welcome to Heart Space Wellness Alliance. Here's my healing room. Let's get started. Hi empaths, welcome back to my healing space. I'm gonna get into another reading. I'm gonna first clear the energy, invoke in the angels, guides, compassionate ancestors, any beings of light that want to come in and inform this reading. So if you want to tune into the sound, I'll be clearing my energy field as well as yours if you tune in. Good. So when I first recorded this reading, it didn't record properly, so now I have to redo it. But you'll never guess why. Patience, of course. I'm learning this lesson, so there we go. And I believe patience is about having the right attitude. So I'm just going to go with it. I'm not going to be too attached to the other video. So patience is about having the right attitude, right? So we're going to get into it. And I pulled magical messages from the fairies oracle cards. So these are already pulled, and I did a whole other reading. It was rather long, so it didn't record properly. So I'm redoing it. But I think now I'll be able to streamline the message a little bit better. A lot of information came through, so we'll see. Your wish is granted, and practice. So there's something that you're waiting on, the results or the manifestation of your intentions, right? Or the fruits of your labor. And you're not quite seeing it yet. Sometimes it comes in the 11th hour, right? We have to learn that and know where we're at in the season, the spiritual season and cycle. Practice. I mean, we always have to, patience is about practice, right? It's really adjusting our attitudes and respecting that we're co-creating. It's not just our will, right? I think that's the misinformation and the incompletion of sort of the commercialized concept of the law of attraction. It's not just our will, right? We're co-creating here, so we are participating, but it's not like making wishes and getting wishes granted constantly. It's not really like that, right? I think that's incomplete. So we're letting go. Letting go and new home came out. Letting go as you surrender the need to control. Your relaxed energy rapidly attracts your desires, and new home moving is a step in the right direction for you. So letting go is about making peace, right? Making peace. Peace is something we come to. It's a process. It's an emotion, but there's a process around coming to peace and being able to maintain that sense of peace. And there's a component of patience in that, right? Peace in being more comfortable with uncertainty. Oftentimes when we come to a reading, it's to gain a sense of certainty in some area. But how are you gaining that certainty, right? How are you gaining that certainty? Sometimes we go to toxic measures to do so. And it's just kind of adding fuel to the impatience fire, adding irritants to the body, not getting proper sleep because we're allowing for blue light too late, right, with our electronics, and that radiation, it affects our sleep, and then it's harder to maintain if we don't account for the physical needs of the body, right? That's just how it is. And sometimes that ungrounding, that sense of ungrounding is a symptom of a broken bond with mother. And that can be from, it doesn't have to be physical separation when you are a baby. It can also be a lack of attunement when you're in the womb. It can also be something inherited, right? Because mother's eggs are fully formed when she's a fetus. So you're also inheriting grandmother's environment, right? So this is in part how DNA works, right? In part. And so working with that broken bond can heal relationship to hometown, because hometown is related to our relationship to mother. And if we have conflicted relationship there, it may create this sense of not belonging, right? Mistrust, and unworthiness, unlovableness, right? All these things that we're looking to heal that conflict. And that's true of all genders, because mother is our first love, our first relationship. It informs so much. Of course, during maturation, we interact in other ways. There's more to the process, but when we're looking at first relationship was with mother as we develop and form inside of her. And then we're looking at, so the reason that came in also is because whom do I need to forgive and then walk away? If we continue in this conflicted relationship, we are ungrounded and we don't have fully developed roots, right? And we're not fully connected to Mother Earth. So this is why healing this broken bond can be very, very influential, therapeutic, empowering, because then we're able to be fully embodied. Your body will tell you, it will speak to you in the way it holds itself, right? When we kind of just allow our body to do what it does and don't mindfully align, we might sense, oh, I'm rolling back in my hips, I'm coming ungrounded, my tailbone is no longer pointed to the earth, right? I worked with a voice teacher who had a holistic approach. A few of my voice teachers did. One of them in particular, I came to her, she was really about alignment and be grounded in the earth, so that there's less resistance as you're vocalizing. And I came to her and I said, every time I do my warm-ups and I'm going through repertoire, I'm finding that my heel comes off the ground. One of my heels wants to come off the ground. I'm not able to stay fully grounded. It's like resisting. And she tuned in and she was very intuitive. She told me, let me tune into that. Sounds like kind of like a show pony. I'm getting the image of a show pony. It sounds like this has to do with relationship to mother, that maybe you're performing for your mother and for her approval. And I was like, and she's like, and it's influencing your ability to ground. And at first, and I thought, wow, that's very profound. I need to look at that. Later on, years later, I went on to study family constellation therapy and found, wow. And then also chakra therapy, right? Chakra therapy with Anna Dea Judith, where she talked about all the ways we bind the charge and the flow of creative energy, rolling up in the hips, disconnecting in our feet, so that we, because it's very true how we are very afraid of our own power. It's our power that scares us, right? For me, knowing that I'm co-creating helps me put that in check too. I feel like part of empowerment is also knowing our place and knowing that we are being divinely guided too. It's not just me, right? I'm like, if it was just me here in front of you, I'd be very intimidated. I'd be very scared. I would not trust that my brain would be able to fully deliver a message. Sometimes I watch back and I'm like, I said that? Do I even know that word? So it's interesting. Like, it's an interesting process. I'm here, I'm present, but there's also something flowing through me that's inspiring this message. Whom do I need to forgive? Walk away. As you release old anger or resentment, you will find that your wishes will come true. And walk away. Leave the unhealthy situation and enjoy the new doors that open as a result. So part of patience and managing your attitude and emotional response is healing the wounding that is prolonging the experience, right? Or triggering this experience, right? We can give our emotions expression and get charged energy out of us without injecting it into another person. I had a healer who primarily worked with Barbara Brennan healing modality, which is incredible. But she also worked with core energetics. Sorry if I hit the mic, but she also worked with core energetics, and I would come to her and I was so repressed with my anger. I did not feel like it was spiritual. There was some unconscious part of me that did not feel worthy of experiencing anger. I was also not good with boundaries. I'm an empath, right? I was also not good with boundaries. I was also not good with, I developed a sense of self, putting my needs first, right? My needs are my priority, so that I'm able to help others. I was not good at that. It was a skill I needed to refine. And she helped me get out these repressed emotions that would have just burnt me alive, right? I just was so unaware, I refused to acknowledge them. That doesn't mean they go away. Just because you don't acknowledge something doesn't mean it goes away, right? It means we lose sight of the ability to manage it. So, and if things go unacknowledged in the family system, they show up in late future generations. So it doesn't really help. And for me, it's really understanding I'm part of this bigger community of my ancestry, right? I'm part of this bigger entity. And if I don't acknowledge my own anger, my mother gets to carry more of the share of anger, right? Or someone else in the family gets to carry more of that. But when I'm able to show up and express my anger too, it balances, right? It's not like I'm putting boundaries all on you. You carry the boundaries in this relationship. It's like we're co-creating in partnership and relationship too. So there is a balancing, right? If I carry all the emotions and I just allow that to happen, and I don't take my proper place and allow for that, and I'm always the one crying and experiencing my emotions, and never assert a boundary around carrying other people's emotional debris, then they don't get the opportunity to learn from their own, right? Because these are messengers. These are messengers. So, and that creates codependent situations where my needs get sacrificed, right? We have to know what it is we sacrifice, right? What is the proper order of that? And are we willing to embrace those consequences? So finding balance in that might heal the dynamic as well. Healing that broken bond with mother, it initiates with the awareness that that's part of the wound, right? Just the acknowledgement of it, because then it starts to create order as we shine a light there. Just like our bodies know how to heal a cut, just like there's a higher aspect of ourself that knows how to heal the wound. So just know, if it's illuminated, it's not like, oh, here's more burden. Here you go. Here's another wound for you to acknowledge and manage. It's like, oh, shining a light there. Shining a light there. And then it engages and initiates the healing response of the spirit. So just know that. You'll find the modality, you'll find the healer, you'll find the information that helps you make those connections, right? We find a sense of community when we heal that broken bond, because then we're able to properly bond, right, with others, without the overcompensations from the wound. And then we're able to have influence and make an impact in a new location, right? So say that that's why many people will go back to their hometown and revisit, or a place from their childhood and revisit, or live there again, right? I have that experience, making peace because I was not able to have influence in another location because I was running away, because I felt rejected, so I in turn rejected. And it's a never-ending cycle if we don't just shine a light there and say, okay, let me take care of this. Let me take care of this, so that I'm not just always fixated on destination and future, right? That creates anxiety. And maybe learn to trust this process a little bit more, ground down in trust. And it takes awareness. It takes practice in doing so. So part of this is knowing what's yours to heal and taking accountability for that, and knowing when to no longer, right? Conflict resolution is important. Who do you need to forgive? Forgiveness lightens your load. When we are unforgiving and resentful, we're taking a piece of somebody else, and it's unusable energy, it's heavy, it's charged. I had a really profound healer that worked with core energetics, and she would have me take a foam bat and I think this is what I was talking about earlier, and I got off track, but she would have me beat a pillow and imagine it being someone who generally I was projecting mother onto. Generally that was what was happening. Or wounding with father, that's generally what it was, but we didn't call it that. We just were like, okay, let's deal with the anger at hand. So the charged energy needs to come out. And instead of injecting it to somebody else, learning to get it out of you. So she would have me take a foam bat and beat a pillow and do primal energy sounds and just get it out of me. And it was so uncomfortable for me. I always resisted. I said, no, I think I'd rather just get on the table and receive healing energy. And she would have clear boundaries with me in the process and say, let's do some of this first, and then we'll regenerate, right? Then we'll do some energy work. So I would always resist, but she would work through my resistances, and because she could see I wasn't owning my anger, and that was unhealthy for me at that time. So knowing when you've done all you can, you've asserted your boundaries, you've done what you can to resolve conflict, not running away from conflict, right? Asserting yourself so you can resolve conflict internally. If we don't speak up when our boundaries are crossed, we will live with a lot of inner conflict, won't we? And inner chaos, and then just attract more and more and more of that as the world reflects that. So knowing when I've said my piece, I've heard the other person out, and I've taken the feedback, and what is my accountability here? Is it something I need to look at and change? Or is this someone else just walking all over my boundary? And I just need to inform, hey, this doesn't work for me. And this is why, right? And maybe bringing some light to the situation. And if they still, because not many people are comfortable with boundaries, are they? Not many people know how to assert a boundary. And not many people understand courtesy, right? Or respectful communication. So knowing when you've done all you can and it's time to stop giving all your energy away, right? In people that are not seeking the peaceful resolution that you are. I have to walk away in peace, right? I have to walk away in peace. No more toxic entanglements. And then winter and vegetarian came out. So the answers to your prayers and affirmations are fully realized in the winter months. This also might mean that you're in the winter season spiritually, so you're not seeing fruits of your labor, right? We get accustomed to seeing the fruits of our labor in the harvest, the fall, right? Harvest season. And then we get into winter and we're no longer seeing that. And it's just like, can we have the awareness that it's cyclical? This isn't permanent. It's just the winter season, time to rest, time to pause, time to practice patience, right? As we rest and recoup for the next season. And manage what we put in our bodies. Vegetarian, a new way of eating, gives you more energy, greater health, clarity, and stronger manifestation abilities. So this isn't about becoming vegetarian if that's not what you're called to do. It's about watching what you're digesting in all areas, right? Are you limiting your exposure to radiation? Are you getting proper sleep and making sure you're limiting light at a certain point in the night, limiting caffeine? And I'm not saying eliminating, but limiting, right? It's not going to be perfect. It's not about perfection. It's about honoring the needs of your body. And sometimes when there's a broken bond, we have disconnected from our physical form, from the physical plane, and we float up and out. Check in with your physiology. Are you rolling up in the hips? Is your tailbone pointed up, right? Are you binding? Are you overextending your knees, right? Are you binding the charge there? Is there some place where you're just not able to fully ground? There's something blocking and preventing. Are you finding that you have ankle pain, little, pains in the feet? Or the opposite, is there too much energy up here? Are you overstimulated, overthinking, and then not able to kind of ground down? Like these are both like ignoring the alignment and having too much tension as we bind the charge in the lower body, can create physical pain and, overcompensation in other areas, and also create a block so that energy is not flowing. It's sort of storing, right? It's accumulating in one area as it's not able to circulate. So just tune in and notice any of these symptoms of binding the charge, of not connecting down. And careful about what you're exposing yourself to, right? Well, the goal is to nourish the body with things that are healthy and to starve the pathogens, right? Starve the pathogens. Don't feed the illness. But that's also imbalance too, right? It will never be perfect. And then the last card, of course, patience, please. This is the topic. What you're asking for is coming about. Have patience, as there are unseen factors that need to occur first. As you're in the winter season, you're waiting. Winter is about waiting for guidance. Sometimes the guidance is wait, right? We want guidance because we want certainty about the fact that we're doing the right thing. If you aren't hearing a strong pull, right? If opportunities aren't lining up, the guidance is wait, right? We don't like that guidance because that means I don't know what's happening and I feel out of control. It's hard to rest, isn't it, when we're addicted to productivity? We need to put that in check and put our attitude in check. Your wish is granted. This is in alignment with patience, please, right? You're co-creating something here, but you're not the only one who has input. So we need to account for that, right? We need to account for that. So let's look at the archetype. The archetype that came out was hedonist. Again, I did this reading once and it didn't take, so the cards are already pulled. So the light attributes are inspires creative energy to embrace the good things in life, celebrates the beauty in yourself. And then the shadow attributes pursues pleasure to the detriment of health, indulges at the expense of others. So we're looking at what we're doing, those things we're indulging in that are taking away from our physical health and well-being, that are pulling us out. That are creating a lack of resourcefulness, right? If we are putting irritants into our body all day long, inflammatory foods and substances, it's going to be hard to practice patience, right? It's not impossible, but we can certainly transcend physical, but the physical needs to be respected, right? The limitations of the body need to be respected. That's very important when it comes to self-respect. If we don't respect ourselves, are we able to extend that to others? Not really, are we? We don't really understand that. So it is important to respect yourself so they're able to extend that. So then I pulled some cards from the tarot deck, Rider Waite, and Five of Cups came out. Five of Cups is a card of grief. It is about letting go. The letting go card, it's about the process of letting go, the process of grief, but it's also about where you put your focus, right? Because you see that this person is paying attention to these 3 cups that are spilled over. Those cups are representative of loss. And so this represents grief. But if you look behind him, there are 2 cups. They're opportunities. This is about your field of vision. This is why it's important to trust right now and to have patience. It's not all in your field of vision, is it? There are some opportunities that are behind you but you're not quite facing that direction yet. So it's a blind spot. This is why we have faith in the process and know that it's not just us at work here, right? If it was just me here showing up and giving this reading, I would probably not know what to say. I wouldn't see connection, but because I trust that there's a higher part of me as well as a higher power that's a part of this process, I tune into that, and then the information flows. And then the human part of me has to create the structure, right? So I have to be aware of time, the process, like what cards, when. That human part of me has to look at the structure here. How do I have a structure for this information, for this session, reading, I have to create some structure around that so I know how to put it in its proper place and put it in order. The other card, the second card that came out is Ace of Wands. So Ace of Wands is about a creative new beginning, Interesting that the hedonist talks about inspiring creative energy to embrace the good things in life. And this, as you see, this, I think it's this direction, but as I'm looking at it, it's in this order. This inspired and creative idea and spark is not in eyeline yet, right? We're processing loss. We're letting go. We're learning to let go and have proper attitude around that. There will be loss in life. So knowing how much energy to give to that and to allow for the process while not clinging, right? So that we may have a new beginning, right? Allowing that to teach us what it needs to teach us, but knowing that's not all there is. There are things that are unseen and yet to come, right? So putting it in perspective that it's not permanent. It's not a permanent state. And figuring out what we're doing that might be prolonging emotional states that we want to move on from. And that's where the Queen of Cups comes in. The Queen of Cups is the observer of emotion. A sensitive, intuitive, compassionate, heart-centered, understanding individual who is able to observe the emotional process and understand that they're messengers, right? And it's interesting how the fire element and the water element come in, but medicine for each other, right? Water is about how we bond with anything, particularly in relationship, right? When we have an exacerbation of water, we become overly attached, right? Water wants to flow. So with bonding, there is this sense of impermanence as things flow in and out of our lives. But if we become overly attached, we're stuck here, right? We're stuck in this state. And even when relationships are ongoing, even when they're long-term, there are going to be moments of loss as we change, right? There's going to be change. And sometimes as we enter a new phase, parents go through this a lot. It's like grieving the loss of a particular phase that the child is going through, right? We get attached to, or say you have a pet, you get attached to the puppy, and then there's no more puppy, it's a dog, right? It's a full-grown dog now, and I miss the puppy, but I love the dog, right? It's understanding that having this relationship with change, that sometimes there's waiting involved in change. Sometimes there is processing our emotions, observing the emotional response of our bodies. Sometimes it is allowing yourself to feel the loss and the grief, and that's okay, because know that it's impermanent. There's going to be a new beginning, a new inspired spark of creativity. And so what you're called to do is just observe the emotions and see them as messengers. So the crystal that wanted to come out is red jasper. Red jasper is a nurturing, grounding, stabilizing stone. It will help stabilize emotions. It's great for anyone who is healing this broken bond with mother. It's a very mothering energy. It resonates with the root and sacral chakras, and helps ground us in our bodies. Jaspers are very, very nurturing. They're known as the nurturers in the crystal world, helping us to stabilize all those emotions, to help us stay in a more resourceful, patient state as we work on stability, right? Stabilizing emotionally. And the oil that came out is wintergreen. And if you look at the word at the top there, trust, right? If we have a broken bond with mother, we symptoms of that are mistrust, lack of belonging, right? So we're seeking community maybe in a new area, a new place. We have to heal the broken bond and our relationship to our hometown before we can have influence in another space. If we're able to do so, without revisiting hometown or having a conversation, right? If we're able to do so and put things into perspective, we can do that in the mind, right? The mind is a powerful tool. It's one of those things too where healing your relationship to yourself and where you're at will heal relationship to mother, and vice versa. Healing relationship to mother will help us feel safer in our bodies. It will help us find healthier ways to self-soothe and just be, managing emotions and putting them in their proper place. And wintergreen, the trigger statement, what if something happens? And the true statement, I take my hands off the wheel. You are not alone. The universe is working with you. Relax and enjoy the adventure, right? Patience, having a good attitude during the journey that requires some trust. Wintergreen is the oil of surrender. It's about relying on divine grace, non-attachment, right? The ability to let go and grieve properly. And, right? What are we learning here? Maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I can't see everything. Maybe I have a blind spot here. Can I take this feedback in and put it in its proper place and discern whether this is something I can learn from? It's always something we can learn from, right? Whether it's, I just learned to be stronger in my boundaries and to speak up for myself, or, oh, this person's feedback's valid. I can see their point. It's, yeah, maybe I misspoke, or, you know what I mean? Putting it in its proper place and not feeling threatened, right? And it's also about strengthening through that trust and faith. and surrender. Surrender can be a very strong state. So the last card that wanted to come out was Notice the Blessings. And this is from the Crazy Sexy Love Notes by Chris Carr. Notice the blessings. You know, sometimes butterflies are a sign and a synchronicity. If one time I was going on a walk and I was struggling with something, and I was feeling alone and isolated and longing for community, and this butterfly similar to these colors just kind of followed me on my walk that day, and I just felt this sense that I was connected. It's very interesting, you know, the energy and the connection we have with nature, and how we can be taught just by observing nature and observing these things. And you know, butterflies are about coming out of the cocoon. So just know that maybe this is a time of cocooning and growing and strengthening internally, and contemplating certain things, figuring things out until we get the creative inspiration, right? Because we will be guided. Sometimes the guidance is wait. That's the hardest guidance, right? Because we want to take action. We want to feel in control. Gratitude puts us in a position of having instead of wanting, thanking rather than complaining. When we focus on what we already have and take stock of our blessings, we get more blessings. What are you grateful for? Share it with yourself and others. Right? Like the hedonist, the light attributes of the hedonist inspires creative energy to embrace the good things in life, and it celebrates the beauty in yourself. So I hope this reading was helpful. Oh, and gratitude is a great remedy for impatience, isn't it? It's great medicine for many things. Sense of lack. Because impatience is really a sense of a lack of time, right? And a lack of inner resources to be able to maintain the time and space where we're uncertain. So if we're able to notice the blessings and maybe take the winter time to count your blessings, that's great medicine, right? So I hope this reading was helpful, inspiring. If it didn't resonate, maybe it wasn't for you, maybe it's for somebody you know and love, please do share with them. If you want more information about me and other social media platforms to connect on, all of that will be in the description of this video. Please do like and subscribe so I know I'm on the right track. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye, Empath.